Well, welcome to the masterclass. Okay, so this is our 60-minute presentation sharing with you about our journey, about how we've had to reframe the Herbalife opportunity. So we're honored to be with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this masterclass. And here we go into more depth. So we hope that these details will support you with your journey in Herbalife, but also for your team. Inevitably, whether it's us or our team members, we're going to go through things, right? We're going to have times where we're growing and things are just expanding rapidly and we're so excited about the future. And perhaps we may have times where it just seems a little bit more stagnant and not growing quite as fast. And we're reflecting on our business. We're really looking at different options for how to really get that spark back and get that energy back to our business. And so as we talk about reinvention, we just really wanted to share that, this might be for you, it may not be really for you at this point in time.
Right. I think that this message is really meant to be a message of hope and inspiration for people. Some of you are going to hear the message and it's going to come at the perfect time. You're going to know exactly what we're talking about. You're like, wow, that's right where I'm at. And then some of you, perhaps you're going to hear this message and it's not the right time because maybe your business is growing, things are great, and you're not dealing with anything like that. Okay, so what I would say is perhaps in the future, you remember this and go, okay, I get it now. And also, you may have people in your business that go through some of these waves, like Jill talks about. Okay, because I think it's great what she said. If we think about it, here we are at an honors level. Everyone that's here at some point in time, I'm assuming, had that period of time in their business where they were very clear, they were excited, life was great, Herbalife was great, I understand, I'm so excited for the future. And then perhaps, you had a period where it was a little bit flat or maybe even a little bit down. That was our experience, okay? And oftentimes, that's when, as Jill said, the spark, right? We lose the spark a little bit, the excitement, the clarity, okay? And so what I would say to you is that's pretty normal, right? The incredible thing about Herbalife is there's people here with us that have been doing Herbalife for 20 years and 30 years and 40 years. And if you really think about it, right, if I were to ask them, do you think that there were times where they were very clear and excited and inspired? More so than perhaps other times? Makes sense that would be the case. If you talk to some of them and they've been in business for 30 or 40 years, I'm assuming that their DMO, right, or their way of working is not the same from the 1980s as it is today, right? Clearly, the basics of what we do of using the products, wearing the brand, talking to people, that hasn't changed. But, right, the actual way of doing that will have eras over the course of time. And so, I say that because it's really pretty normal to go through this, and so our story that we'll be sharing, we're going to spend a lot of the time, if you look over the course of, for us, it's really, what I'd say, a short 15 years. It's been an incredible 15 years. But when I look at the beginning, the pure excitement and then the clarity and the inspiration, the excitement for the future, and then now how do we do it? What's our way of working? Why isn't it as fun as it was when we first started? What's going on here? Wow, we could start all over and completely reinvent the business in a way that's fun and inspiring for us. And so that's really what we're going to be talking to you about today.
Exactly, Mark. So we'll be covering our personal journey over the last 15 years. We had some, I'd say, slight reinventions to do in the first period of our business. But really the big reframing of the opportunity and reinvention came right in 2016, 2017. And so we'll spend most of our time talking about the steps that we took to reinvent. And even before that, what are the signs? Like, how do you know that it's time to make a change? And quite honestly, for both Mark and myself, we spent years sort of a bit in that fog, not realizing that while we're in the fog, these signs are real. These are real indications that we need to be moving in a different direction. So hopefully we can spare you of the years of the fog and really help identify what are those signs to be looking for and how to know when it's time to really consider reframing your opportunity in Herbalife Nutrition. Okay, so let's begin with a brief history of what Mark and I have been through in our 15 years. And I just love moments where I get to hear from the different founder circle and chairman's club members and president's team members who really began Herbalife in the 80s, and they share about the difficult times they went through and that Mark Hughes went through. They share about the 90s and the difficult times then. I actually feel like, I don't know if you feel this way, Mark, but I feel like I learned more from someone's challenges and how they overcame them sometimes than from even sometimes their great success moments. So I'm so grateful that we have these incredible leaders who have been down this road too. They understand that the business has eras to it. So for us in our 15 years, we actually began Herbalife Nutrition as customers, okay, getting great results. We loved the products. I mean, I still to this day, when the Herbalife box shows up with products, I'm like a little kid. I'm so excited. So we started as customers, and then it was really a very smooth transition into the business because we had so many people in our life that were either asking us about our health results or just they were sharing with us that they wanted to get in better shape. They wanted to have more energy. They wanted to feel better. Okay, so that's really where our business began, with our circle of influence, with friends and family. And that was the first phase of our business. So I remember thinking, Mark, because we reached the global expansion team in 6 months, our first cut was 3 months into the business. Okay, not typical, but that's what happened for Mark and I. And I remember thinking, we'll be president's team in a year. I had no idea, okay, the true work and consistency and determination someone has to have to reach the president's team. So congratulations to all who are watching who are at the president's team level. It's a huge accomplishment and a tremendous amount of work to get there. So we had to make a transition, Mark. We had to reframe the Herbalife opportunity again. And so that's when we really moved into what we call Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We were running weight loss challenges and also had opportunity meetings 3 times a week. And that's really how Mark and I were bringing on new customers, making sure they were getting great results, and also sponsoring new team members, first line, to build our organization. And so that period of our business lasted several years. In fact, I'd say that really got us to the president's team by staying consistent and working hard and putting in the effort. And then 2011 came, and the team was so excited about fitness and working out. And so as an organization, we came up with the Fit Camp model that many of you know around the world, where there's workouts, post-recovery shakes, an introduction to the opportunity of results on the products, an introduction to the opportunity of the business. And we loved that model. It was a very smooth transition. In fact, I don't think it was that much effort to go from Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday into the Fit Camp model. Right. It really was just a nice addition. But then 2017, and it was a difficult time for us. Mark will share like some of the factors that came into play. Certainly some changes in our market. And in 2017, it was time to make another transition, time to reframe the opportunity once again. And this time it was a 180-degree change. I mean, I feel like it was such a change for our team's culture. Our trainings changed, our schedule changed, the steps we do. The thing that didn't change was use, wear, talk. I mean, we use the products, we wear the brand, we talk to people. So the fundamentals, the Mark Hughes fundamentals, as you said, never changed. It was just our daily method of operation that we shifted into routine. So throughout the course of our conversation, we'll share with you why we did that. Like, what were the signs? What were the steps we took? What was the outcome of it? And hopefully, again, inside that, you'll recognize, as Mark said, pretty normal to go through in Herbalife. We've been through this a few times now, and sometimes are a little easier transitions than others. This last one was pretty significant for us.
Right, and I think that it's a great point that you make about sometimes you find that it's more of an adjustment than just a shift. Let's just call it a shift in the way of working, or an addition to the way of working. When I look at those early phases, we had our office going the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then weight loss challenges during the week. It was a really pretty a natural transition to just add the Fit Club model on the front end and continue that model. So it was a nice adjustment. Okay. And so the part that we're going to focus on really is the ending, as Jill said, not the ending, but the later in our business, right? Because it was much more of a full transition. And I can tell you that it was a bigger transition partly because we did have to create new trainings. You have to create new language. We created a whole new culture. Okay. And so one of the things that you can find is oftentimes the longer you're in business, the bigger your business is, the more difficult the transition can be. At least that was the case for us, right? Obviously, when you have a lot more people that have been going in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden we have to have a whole new conversation about, well, we're going to go in a different direction and do things slightly differently. There's a period, there's a process that we have to go through. And that's what we're going to be talking here. Yeah, a lot of patience is a great way to put it. Okay, so let's talk about, how do you know when it's time to make this type of a move? Okay, I can tell you, and we're going to focus now on the big transition that we had between 2016, 17, 18, is really as we were going through this transition. Okay, so some of the signs. Okay, what I would say to you, the first signs that really showed up were not necessarily the numbers yet, but it was more of a feeling in the business. Okay, we're all leaders in Herbalife, and so you know what I mean by about the feeling of the organization, the energy, the excitement. Okay, when we're 17, there's a little bit of a downgrade in energy. There's a downgrade in excitement. Okay, there's a downgrade in the plugging into meetings, like I'll just say the overall enthusiasm. Okay, and so when we looked at that, there was this period where it just felt a little off. It just felt a little bit down, and then the reality happens. Okay, the numbers will tell a story. All right, and this is a really, really key piece to pay attention to because if you look at it at that time, for us, our business, our royalty was going down. We were down 22% in total volume in 2017, right? It's very uncomfortable. We had gone down in 15, down in 16, down in 17. And so not just the volumes, but then if you look a little bit deeper, if you take a look at the sponsoring numbers were down, obviously the number of new customers coming into the business were down. The active supervisors, okay, and this was a key one because it's always been a big focus for us is building the business with active supervisors. What we found was we were still able to qualify active supervisors, but it was happening primarily in certain peak parts of the year when we have seasonal momentum. So we would qualify active supervisors perhaps in March, April, and May, but the retention of the active supervisors were down. Okay, and that was a key piece because we might hit a 5-stone pin or a 10-stone pin early in the year, and then later in the summer and throughout the wintertime, right? Totally different story.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Because it's a sign of our ability to duplicate. Okay, like if I'm looking at how well am I having new active supervisors first level and second level, third level, and so on. But then let's say certain team members are hitting their 3-stone pin, their 5-stone pin, or we have all these amazing new pins now, yes? So the thing we would notice is someone would hit maybe a 7-stone pin, but then when we would check in December, they're down to a 2-stone pin, which was an indication to us that the people they were sponsoring couldn't duplicate them. And so it became this very big red flag in our business that we're struggling to retain. Okay, and if we're struggling to retain active supervisors, we're probably struggling to retain supervisors, probably struggling also with maybe the members and the customers as well. So it was definitely an important red flag for us to pay attention to.
Right, and all of these things were going on. There was a general trend over time, okay? And there's a key piece here is this wasn't from not working. Okay. This was the key piece here was the work was still being done. The invitations were being made. We were bringing new people onto the products and into the business. We were going to meetings. We were inviting people to meetings, but the numbers in general were starting to decline. Okay. And so I just wanted to make that distinction there because it wasn't like people just retired and, decided they weren't going to do the business anymore. It really was not getting the same results from the same effort. Okay. Another key thing in the United States that changed for us was there was a shift in the marketing plan, right? Ultimately became very positive for our business. But at the time, it really highlighted one of the major gaps in our business. Okay. Our experience living in Los Angeles at the time was that once we had documented volume, we found that we didn't have a very predictable, consistent way that our distributors could consistently produce documented volume. Okay. And that was a big deal for us because, we found that there were big gaps of time between when the volume would be created. And it was during those gaps of time that people would lose their excitement, they would lose their belief, they would lose momentum. So we needed to find a way. This was like one of the big things that we were searching for was, okay, we didn't know at the time where it was going to come from, but we realized we had to have a more consistent way to create documented volume. Okay. And so there was a lot of frustration, quite honestly. If you look at this, when these things are happening, it's not necessarily a fun time. At least for us, it wasn't. It was really kind of the gut check. Okay. And that's when reality hits of like, okay, are we really willing to take this on? Okay. Which is a key question.
That's a great question because, at the time we were 30K for Diamond, and these thoughts can enter your brain of like, at this level of the business, I shouldn't have to go back and do it all again. At this place in my business, someone in my organization should be the one to figure it out. And so we had to really pause and have a real moment with ourselves of like, okay, maybe we should take off the spin and honestly take a look at the situation and realize we probably need to make some changes. What can stop us from reinventing? Okay. And to be honest, a lot of the areas we're going to be talking about here, in my opinion, are great opportunities for personal development. So a lot of the books and audios and seminars that Mark and I have recently done, especially in the last 4 years, have been centered around these areas so that we can have a breakthrough around why we were hesitant to make a change or what was it that maybe had us pause before realizing the reality of our business requires change. Okay, so let's go through these one by one, and I may add in a few from the original talk that we did for honors that we noticed inside ourselves as we were taking this on. The first is denial. Okay, one of the biggest enemies that we have is our own mind telling us that, oh, these numbers, they don't really mean much. They'll turn around on their own. And it sounds so funny to say today, but I can genuinely tell I myself that back when we were declining, I actually stopped looking at our numbers. It's so embarrassing, but true. And in fact, we had been so great for years, tracking our 3-level volume and different metrics every single day. But if I go back to my reports from that period, they're blanks. I was so sad, I think, and just so frustrated. Just honestly thinking like, I hope it turns around. And unfortunately, hope is not a strategy. Okay, so here I was in denial that these numbers are what they are. And it really took years to work through that emotion and really work through the experience of understanding that this is reality. This is the truth of our business. That decline of 22% is the reality. And we can either let it keep declining or we can do something about it. So denial is number one. The second one is attachment. Okay, so us human beings have these attachments, yes? And for Mark and I, we absolutely were so attached to the Fit Camp model. We loved it. I mean, there were times there were video crews coming down to the beach from Herbalife to film. We had different people from different countries, visiting, taking a look at the model, asking us questions on how it worked. And we really thought we would be doing it forever. Now, do we still have Fit Camps happening in our organization? Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic model. But we realized for us, we had to add something in, okay? So that attachment, though, kept us from seeing that. That attachment to the fit camp model and kept trying to go and kept wanting it to work and so wanted to see that continue really kept us from taking steps. One of the signs of attachment, I'll just say for my own self, is complaining, okay? And complaints can show up like, complaining about how other people are doing their business, okay? Complaints around why our organization isn't working harder. Complaints around why isn't this working anymore? And so I remember thinking, like, who is this person that's talking right now? I don't even recognize myself inside these complaints that I have around my attachment to how I want to do the business. And sometimes that can hold us back. Every now and then I'll have a conversation with a friend and, we'll have a very similar experience where we wish the way we did the business a decade or 2 decades ago was still the same. And the truth is things change. The fundamentals stay the same. The Mark Hughes basics stay the same. But things do change and methods change, and we have to move with those changes. Okay, so the second one was attachment. The other one we had to watch out for was needs, okay? The needs that we have to maybe be significant or the need to have certainty. I mean, there's different human needs that are out there, but certainly these showed up for us of the need for certainty and not wanting to change. And the truth is, on this last point, change is really uncomfortable. Okay, there's nothing really that fun about dealing with everything being moved around and having to rethink things, having to have totally new conversations with our organization, having to work through, the difficult conversations of, I don't want to change, maybe this will improve. But the truth is that uncomfortable piece can keep us from actually taking the action. And so the question is, are we willing to step into the discomfort, to face the storm, as they say, and really take on the necessary improvements, redirection for really being able to reframe the opportunity and have a new chance at our business?
I just want to add to that, the attachment piece. I think sometimes, again, here we are at an honors level. We've all had great success in our business, right, to get to this level. I think sometimes the more success that you have, the more attached that you get.
Yes, you get very right.
You get very righteous about your way of working, potentially.
Potentially,
okay?
we did.
Yeah, our position was very much like I felt like an expert. Okay, so I was very attached to this fit camp model being the way and being this, great thing that we had been a part of the creation from the beginning. So there was definitely a bit of ego, definitely, I would say a lot of ego. There was a lot of, when you become the expert, sometimes it's hard to let that go. Okay. And so it'll stop you from really seeing what's going on. Okay. Now, I think that, the next part of this, right, when we talk about, okay, how do we make this transition? Right. So taking responsibility. I know there was a moment I'm forever grateful when we got together and we had a literally heart to heart sitting down. We had the conversation of here's where things are at. Here's where they're headed. We're really going to have to take this on. Okay. And I am forever grateful for the moment that we had that conversation because it was a very difficult conversation. It was, reality, right? It was reality. Here's where we're at. Are we willing to do it? And so I know that the responsibility piece, that you really kicked that piece off.
Well, and thank you, Mark. I mean, he was so great in that conversation, like willing to sit down with me. And I think I just had a vision in my head of what could work. And I was like, all of a sudden that inspiration came of like, we could redirect our efforts and reframe this whole thing. So it was more of like, I was eager to share with him. I was like, I had insight and I thought, okay, if we can get on the same page and we can take this on, if we're willing to, because again, like you have to answer that question, are you willing to change? But if the answer is yes, and you're ready to take full responsibility for those changes, a great journey can emerge.
Right. I just want to say that I think the reason that it works so well as a couple, right, the way that she presented it to me was, it wasn't a complaint. It didn't start as this complaint of what's wrong and, why it's not fair and why it should be different. It started as, you had a vision, just like you said. She shared with me. She's like, I really want to talk to you about something. I'm excited about it. Can I share this with you? And so it landed completely different for me, because again, we had been in this phase of decline. And so when she offered that conversation, it was hope. It was like, okay, well, what do you think? And I really just thank you for that, because the way it was presented, I think, is the reason that we're even having this conversation here.
Oh, thank you. You're going to make me cry. Okay. I'll just say this, that, if you get that moment of inspiration, if you've been through something like maybe Mark and I have, and again, if you're soaring and things are flying, keep going, for goodness sake. If it's working, keep going. But if you ever go through that pause or that challenge, again, like, see if you can find that insight or an inspiration to see how the business can change and move forward. Ultimately, the big thing I was looking for from both of us was, are we willing to be the ones to take full responsibility for everything this is going to take?
Now, right, to tell on myself a little bit, we had the conversation, all right? And I can tell you that at that time, I really was not in a great place. I wasn't, when I think back to myself, when I found Herbalife, it was as pure could be. I was as excited as you could possibly be about the products and the business and the events and the people, you name it, it was great. Everything was fantastic. And then one day I woke up after this conversation. I remember waking up and going, I don't even recognize myself right now. My entire life, I've been excited about the future. And I realized that I had spent the last several years in this place of frustration and complaining and blaming, and it's not fair. And it really was this moment of like, how did this even happen? And I can tell you that for me, I had a moment where I knew that I had to take this thing on, because it wasn't going to just go away because I wanted it to. And so there was a process that I went through, right? The process of reading books and journaling, going right back to the very beginning before I found Herbalife. I ended up taking some seminars, really focusing on letting things go. Okay. I would say the big breakthrough that I had was in the area of forgiveness. Okay. It was a lot of forgiveness work. Forgiveness of myself, because it was forgiving not having the answers. It was forgiving not being someplace else. It was forgiving not seeing the changes to the business. It was forgiving all of these things. It was almost like taking the pressure off of myself, like it's okay. And then there was a lot of forgiving of other people, right? I had a lot of past complaints, stories that I'd made up that I had been carrying along with me, frustrations. And it would show up when we would communicate, when I would see them at events, when we would talk, if I would see them, online, all those different things were all holding me back. And so I went on this process, right? I know you had your own process as well, but I went on this process of like really letting these things go. Okay. And I can tell you, it wasn't fun in the beginning. Okay. But little by little, as I started the process, you could feel it's almost like a healing that takes place, right? As you let go of this negativity, all of a sudden you start to have creativity come in, happiness come in, the joy starts to come back in, the hope and the ability to really see. I look at it today, I don't think that we ever could have made this kind of a transition without doing that kind of personal work of getting clean, right? The other thing I know you can talk about, when one of us is not in a great place, we can really bring the other person down.
Absolutely. We can actually trigger each other. And I think both Mark and I needed to go through some massive personal growth in that period. It's so funny, right? Like we could look down at a pin at the time and be like, we're 4 diamond, we're 30K, we shouldn't have to do this level of personal growth. But the truth is we had to be the first in line to do the personal growth. What we found was let's say Mark started the day in a great mood and he's doing excellent, but I am still harboring all these frustrations and angers, or I see something that triggers something. And if I communicated it to him, it was almost like dumping garbage on him. And then he all of a sudden would be down in the muck with me. And so we had to take a lot of responsibility, not only for our own personal growth, but for our own energy, like right. our commitment to a great attitude, no matter what. Because sometimes your spouse is like the easiest person, or your partner is the easiest person to go to with these things, but we have to have that discipline to remember that we have an impact with our energy around everyone who's around us. So that process, yes, Mark, of forgiving, letting go, the whole point is to clear the space. It's like, what if you could get to a place where you don't have any complaints around how it used to be, or have
Right.
any like regrets or frustrations or resentments, heaven forbid? What if you could clear up all of those relationships and have great working friendships? You may not work together every single day, but maybe you can have great respect for one another and speak well of one another. I think that's been one of the most important parts of our personal growth journey in just the last 4 years of really taking on being careful with what we're saying, not taking things personally, don't make assumptions, right? And doing our best with our attitude and our energy.
Yeah. I can also say during that time, one of the main things that we focused on was really committing to the relationship.
Yes,
It
that was a
was
good
like,
part too.
it was at a time when, right, when the frustration was high, we really had to get clear with each other that this was the most important thing. No matter what, if this is good, this relationship is good, we can build on top of that. And I can tell you, we spent a ton of time really getting our communication clean. Like Jill said, when somebody's down in the dumps, you can almost, that person oftentimes will hijack the conversation, right? It can start as a good conversation, and then, you get the, well, what about this? And this is wrong. And you can literally hijack the conversation and not make any progress. So for us, I look back at the time as one of my, one of the greatest things that came out of that was really getting clear of what's really important. Okay. There was a moment of, this is the most important. If this is good, we can figure this thing out.
Very good, Mark. And there's this awesome, I can't remember who said it, but we were in a training, and someone once said that a ship in stormy waters can stay afloat as long as the water doesn't get in the boat. And we were like, okay, we're not letting the water in the boat. So let's get to step 3. Okay, step 3 is the search. Okay, so now if we walk back, we're looking at the different steps we've taken, right? We've first taken responsibility, done the necessary personal growth, which can be very deep, to get to a clean slate.
Yep.
And then now the search begins. It's like, okay, you've got a fresh breath of air in you, and you're ready. And really for Mark and I, what we decided to do was start with our region. Okay. We felt a very strong responsibility for our team, who's mainly here in the United States. And so we wanted to figure out a way of working that could make a difference for them, okay, and for all of us as an organization. So when we started to look out at the horizon of North America and really scan for what are our different options, some of the things that we took into account were, number one, the marketplace, okay, so the marketplace within which we're willing to build, okay, what models work well in these markets. Next, we looked at our personality and said, listen, like if we're not behind the method of operation, meaning we're not passionate about it and excited, there's no way our team's going to be excited. So we needed to really take into account not only what's working in the market, but what fits us, okay? What fits our personality and our life, okay? And then also just some of the things we also looked at were, okay, we have a philosophy around having our customers get incredible results. We have a philosophy around preferred members getting incredible results. We pride ourselves and our team on having really close relationships. We're more of a face-to-face person. So where we arrived after looking at all of that was at the Nutrition Club model. Now, the thing to know is this is not a simple transition for us at the time. None of our team were in a nutrition club. We didn't have a single nutrition club in our organization. Okay, and not only that, we'd been doing this Fit Camp Beach model where everybody had time freedom and they could go to the gym when they wanted to. And, they had to show up to maybe some trainings and some challenges or things for their customers, but largely their day was pretty open. And now we're introducing something called a nutrition club to them, where it's a lot of work to do a nutrition club. It's a lot of work to do any model, no matter what model. But clubs in particular, you've got to be present inside the nutrition club. So this is new for our organization. So the question then that we had, now that we'd zeroed in on this particular method, was who has expertise in this? And so we really sought out friends of ours, really inspirational mentors of ours to help us understand, what does this take? We don't even know where to begin. Like, we've never done this before. And I'm really, to this day, just so grateful for the Herbalife community. I mean, without you, the leaders, sharing with one another, we certainly wouldn't be doing this presentation right now, and we wouldn't be where we are. So we just have so much gratitude for all of the leaders who contributed to us in that very dark period of our lives where we were really searching and trying to find our way. And so I just feel like that's the essence of Herbalife, though, right? We have success. We learn a way of working. We can share that with other people who really desperately need to have some hope and have a way of building their business. Anything you'd add to the search, Mark?
Yeah, I just think that, the experience it was almost like people taking us in, right? It was like that much love and respect and, willingness to share. And I think that's the great thing about Herbalife is, that's really how the business, I think, over the course of the last 40 years has grown, right? Is people sharing and teaching other people. And so, like Jill said, just forever grateful for all of the people that we talk to inside of the Nutrition Club model, outside of the Nutrition Club model, because we really did do a scan of the different ways of working, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if we get into the next point here, okay, the fourth step is, as people started to share with us, and this was a crucial piece, was really, obviously, you're grateful. Okay, you're thankful that someone's willing to share. But I can tell you what made a really big difference for us was having a level of humility. Okay, literally taking the pin off and pretending, in your mind, like showing up as a brand new distributor. It made such a huge difference, because oftentimes what happens with us as leaders is it's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves to have the answers and understand how it works and be able to flow with the conversation. And I can tell you, having never been inside of a nutrition club in terms of working one or owning one or even thinking about one, when we walked in there, it was literally like, let me take this pin off. I am no longer a 4-diamond, 30K president's team member with big organization. I'm a brand new distributor. Please talk to me like I'm brand new. And it made a huge difference, because if you walk into a conversation with someone and you already know, based on your previous experience, it's difficult to really grasp the little things that are taking place that's making the model successful. Okay. And so I can tell you, for me, that was a huge deal. We went to people who were Get team members. We talked to people who were Millionaire team members. Obviously, lots of President's team members. It didn't matter, because what you'll find is everybody has a story and something to share that can make a difference with this kind of a transition.
I think one thing that helps too is when we approach the teams, and this is just, if this fits you and how you want to go about it, if this is the phase of your business you're in. But when we approached everyone, we just kept saying, is there anything we can give back to you?
Great.
I'm happy to do a success training seminar. I'm happy to do calls for your team, whatever. And most of the time, they definitely didn't need us because we were lost, right? Trying to figure out how we were going to build the business. But just offer it, like that exchange, the ability to bring something and help out with maybe something they're focused on and working through as you're learning from them and going through the steps of how they built what they built.
Yeah, I just say, again, the real essence of Herbalife is that sharing piece. It made such a difference for us. I love what you said. I'll go right back to the point about another reason of taking the pin off is sometimes if, you walk into someone's, say, nutrition club or their business, and they know you because they've seen you, at the Herbalife events with a President's Team pin or, on stage training, they tend to give you I don't want to say a different story, but it's more polished. It's more like, you probably already know this, so I'm not going to cover that. So what I found is, like, if you're willing to take off the pin and just have the conversation, say, hey, listen, I appreciate the respect and you being so excited that we're here, but I want you to pretend that I'm a brand new distributor. Talk to me like I'm brand new. It really gave them permission then to become an expert. Okay, it gave them permission to go, oh, okay, like I'm the expert. You can actually build people up in the process. And it made such a difference for us.
And it was fun.
Right.
It's fun to be a new distributor. It's fun to take notes and raise your hand and ask questions, or, just really be that student of the Herbalife opportunity again. It really helped us with reframing the whole opportunity with the mindset. But I think if we do go in and we're expecting to have huge changes, we're not willing to do our personal growth, we're not willing to clean the slate, we're not willing to be a student again, it can be hard to learn. It can be hard to really grasp the little details that make such a difference for this working for you and for your organization.
I'll just say one more thing on that point. If you want to make this type of a transition, my recommendation is don't load it on other people's back.
Good, Mark.
Okay. One of the things that we did is people had us come to their training to see what they were doing, or they came to their nutrition club to see what they were doing. And then we thanked them. And then we went and recreated it for our organization. Oftentimes what I see happen is people say, I'm lost, I'm stuck. Can my team plug into your stuff? Okay. And my experience has been, it's difficult to take two different cultures and just take one that's not involved with the model, that may be stuck and working through some things, and just say, here, and offload it to somebody else to fix it for you. So
yeah, we were very clear, and not to ask too much, okay? Not to throw our situation on someone else. The other part too is if someone comes to me and says, hey, can I just plug my people into what you're doing? I'm like, first of all, it's probably not going to fit your group because there's a culture here and you probably have your own culture. The second reason is I would never want to rob you of the lessons that you must learn in order to take your business to the next level.
Right.
Okay, so there's no shortcuts here. We have to go through it. And I think because part of why we were able to come out on the other end of it was we were willing to take it on. And so step 5 is implementation. Step 5 is all about taking what we learn as a student of the different models that we're exploring, okay, and bringing it back home to say, okay, now what are we going to do and how are we going to bring this to our organization? And honestly, inside of implementation, I think some of us want to race to creating trainings and steps and processes, but we can't skip over the fact that we have to enroll our team in this idea because they may not be clear on why you're so excited about this new thing or what the reasons are for why you want to go into this direction. So a lot of our work was with our top leaders in the very beginning, just having conversations around what we were learning, why we think it's valuable, getting on the same page together so that together as a unit, we'd be far more powerful and effective bringing these ideas to the organization. Without enrollment of your top leaders, it's really hard to implement something new.
I think an additional piece to that implementation, part of the reason that it worked was even in the previous step when we went on the search, we identified key thought leaders in the organization and took them on the search with us. Okay, so we toured nutrition clubs, we toured trainings, we looked at other organizations. So we almost had our, what I would say is our transition team that really thought leaders of the organization to go and to see, and then afterwards debrief and discuss. And during those meetings was really a time to start to cast the vision of really, what if? What if we took this on? What if we did it this way? And by enrolling that first group of people, and this is a key piece, it's part of the implementation, okay? In our experience, the people that we took with us were people that had not yet reached the president's team. We went with our new organization that we were working with. And I believe that this was a key piece to recreating the growth in our business, because what had happened was these people who came with us, they were Get team members. We had a couple of millionaire team members, even a world team member. Okay, you'll hear more about her. But we had a very small group of people that came with us. And as a result of them getting that personal attention, coming with us, getting the learning, the understanding of the model, they really stepped up in their own personal belief and understanding of the business. Like they felt like leaders. They felt like partners in this transition. Okay. So I do believe that that's a key piece of the implementation piece, is you've got to have your key thought leaders that are on board, that are going to help spread the message to the rest of the organization on why we're making this kind of a transition. Okay. Now, when we look back, the way that we then, with those thought leaders, got it to the rest of the organization was we had our very first training that we did in March 2018. Okay. Just 3 years ago. And what we did was we took those key thought leaders, then we invited the rest of the organization. Okay, obviously we got the entire group together and we put together a training. Okay, the training at that time was a lot of the training was focused on why we're making the transition, not so much on how. Okay, we got into a little bit more how later, but at first it was a lot of why. There was stories of success from other people. Okay. And then we got into the very basic steps of the how piece, but it wasn't this super detailed training on how to run a point of sale system and, how to do marketing for a nutrition club because people hadn't even made the decision yet that they wanted to make this transition. So
yes. I was just going to say those trainings came later.
Right.
We built on that foundation of the first March 2018 training. And then from there, built the how-to trainings, the processes, the steps. And it was fun. Like it was so interesting to explore a whole new way of working and begin a whole new era of the business. So step 6 is really about continuing the process. So I think sometimes, Mark, like when we start a new path and a new direction with reframing the opportunity for ourselves and reinventing our business, we expect immediate results. It's like here in Herbalife Nutrition, we sometimes expect it to work right away. And the experience we've had is it takes a lot of patience, consistency, focused work, effort, and then things start to move forward and change. So we had to discipline ourselves a bit with our expectations and say, okay, this is going to be a multi-year process to really build an understanding of this entire new way of working. So for those of you that are maybe considering this or going through a change yourselves, it's like just stay patient, stay plugged into the trainings and keep that student mindset because over time, things can move forward and can start to adjust, but we just have to be really patient with the process of it. So for us, we had that decline that we talked about. So 2017, did you want to cover this, Mark? How the numbers started to change?
Sure. And I just want to make a point of, when Jill talks about it takes some time for it to show up, our experience was, okay, it took some time, right? There was the period of time where, it's almost disbelief and things, were a challenge. And then it was frustrating. And then you're fighting it. And then there's the time where you go, okay, we're going to have to change. Then there's time for the search, right? We're going to search, we're going to study. Then there's the time for the enrollment of the organization. All that happens before the actual implementation. Mm-hmm. And so for us, although we had our first nutrition club meeting in 2018, and that's really when things started to turn around, there was a lot of pre-work of getting clean and then getting clarity and then gaining enrollment from the current or the thought leaders that we had that were going to make the transition with us. All of that takes a little bit of time. Yeah. Okay. And so I just say that because if you were to look at our numbers and say, wow, they had a nutrition club training and things started to grow, that wasn't the case. There were years of pre-work of really laying the foundation to be able to build from that.
Right. Okay? I mean, we would celebrate if we had 1% growth. We're like, we're growing. It's 1%. This is great news. But the path that took place, and again, like Mark said, it took a lot of time, a lot of work. 2017, as we shared earlier, was down 22%. And then that period of 2017 through 2018 was when we were making all of those adjustments in personal growth and students and learning, right? Well, in 2018, it went up 16%. 2019 was 16%. And then 2020 was 42% growth on our 3-level total volume. So we were ecstatic to see the numbers change like this. And again, it's just our experience with that process having worked out inside this new model. But again, it can take even longer than that. It can take years. We have to stay patient. Right? It's a lifelong journey, as you said. So an interesting story we'll share from that March 2018 training that we had. One of our team members who came, she was world team at the time, had been world team, you guys, for 7 years at that point. And she loved fit camps. Okay. She was just in love with the fitness model. And she said, Jill, Mark, I'm not really that excited about the nutrition club model. And this is important to know because not everybody's going to be jumping up and down when you're explaining this new direction you want to go in. And so we said, no problem. You don't have to do a club. We would want you to just do what you love. Your way of working is perfect. And we just said, but take a look, consider exploring it and seeing if there's something there for you. So she came to that event with 2 of her team members in March 2018. And in October of 2018, she was actually the first person Mark and I had in our organization that we were working with at the time that had their first nutrition club. Okay, so she was the first to open. She got very excited from that March event. She's like, I think I can do this. Opened in October 2018. Well, 18 months later, she was in president's team cuts. Okay, pretty extraordinary, right? From just focusing on the work, staying consistent, determined, with the effort behind it. But 18 months later, went from world team to her president's team cuts, and she's actually our 5th diamond. And that's how we reached the Chairman's Club through this whole process of reinvention, of reframing things, of finding a new way of working and just staying patient through the process and with all of the work that entails.
Yeah, I mean, it really, when I look at that whole process, and we'll talk more about this, but, it was an incredible, when I look back, at those stages, right? The personal growth stage, it was almost like a healing stage. Mm. And then there was the search stage, which was, gave the experience of a new hope of okay, that we can make this work. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but we'll figure it out. And then you get to this phase where you're like, okay, I found the model that we're going to make the transition to. Okay, let's start making some adjustments. Now the creativity comes back in.
That's
okay,
good, Mark.
you start to have the creativity. Creativity creates inspiration. Okay, and all of a sudden the business, what I'm going to say to you is the business, the spark that you talk about, right? The spark came back. Okay. The ability to be able to make a difference for people, the ability to be able to think and create and adjust and tweak and, all the things that I know that we love with the Herbalife business. When we build an organization, right, it's an enjoyable process. Okay. And I say that because, it really is something that when I look at the journey, now it all makes sense when I look back, at what we had to go through. Okay. So if
I was just going to say, so it's just, I can't say enough, but keep going. Like, right. And we certainly would never want to see someone make a permanent decision about their future Herbalife when they're having a temporary period that's a little more difficult. So that temporary period, it's like this too shall pass. Okay. And for us, it just, the experience we had, it was almost like we climbed our first mountain, went through a very long valley, and then had started to come out of that fog and climbing again. And so we just have some last tips for you as we close things out. And again, if you're soaring and things are going awesome, fantastic, you can just take this training and put it on the shelf for the future, and hopefully you'll never need it. But maybe you might be going through something and trying to figure out what to do next, or you have a team member. And I think sometimes it's almost like, we're parents of 3 daughters. When we see our team going through something, it's the same emotion as when your child is going through something. You get concerned, you're trying to make sure they're doing well in life. And so maybe this suits them. So these last points are just some key lessons that Mark and I have learned from these past 15 years of really going through a lot of reframing.
That's great. So the first piece is, what I would say is, not everyone will come with you. Okay. There's going to be people who they want to do what they've done, and that's all they know, and they're happy. And we've got to learn to be great with that.
Okay? Especially if they're doing okay and
right,
they're growing. Like, we wouldn't want them to change anything. So.
Exactly. Right. But there's going to be people who they don't see the vision. Okay. And so I will tell you that one of the most difficult things in the beginning, okay, as a leader in Herbalife, as we build a big business, sometimes we have the experience of having a very big organization. You go to a training and you have lots of people at the training, and you have lots of people moving up the marketing plan, right? So To go from that to our experience was that we had suddenly a brand new little table. It was like we had our little leadership team that was able to fit around our kitchen table. And so it's a moment of like, you really have to kind of let go of, at
What
least
once
for us,
was.
what once was, right?
It's like a grieving process. It's almost very similar to a grieving process of like, it'll never be that again. Be grateful that it happened, and the experience of just allowing for the moment that we're in to be as it is,
Right.
and from there build again.
I would say another key piece to that is don't compare to the way that it was. You know, when we had 4 or 5 people around our kitchen table, it was easy to think back and go, I remember when we would have a training and there would be 100 people there, and we would have a whole room at the success training seminar, right? It was really, you know, that was a moment where you really have to catch yourself and not try to compare and think that something's wrong, because this is like starting a whole new business. You've got your core little crew team, and that can be incredible. They need to know that it's incredible, because if you're working with your core little crew team, but you're constantly going, I remember the good old days. I remember when we had all these people. You can think about what kind of, you know, energy, like what kind of energy that gives to the people that are sitting around the table that are eager to make the transition and excited about their future. Okay. So my first point is not everyone's going to come with you. Okay. Second point is you want to focus on the people that do. Okay. You want to give them your energy, your love, your attention, build them up, because these will be the future leaders inside of your organization. You know, if there's one thing that I think that we've had a lot of success with is building new lines of leaders. Okay. This is an opportunity to really take a group of people and start fresh and recreate a next era in your business. Okay. And the last thing, you want to go?
I just wanted to say, always leave the door open.
Yep.
Point number 3 is like, over time, you know, we all have different timing, different things we're going through in our lives. So maybe when we're rolling out this new idea, it's just not the right time for this person. So we don't want to be in like crossing our arms and saying, well, sorry, but we're moving on without you. We want to leave the door open always for someone to jump on board when it's right for them. So point number 3 would be that.
Yeah. And I'll say, you know, this is a process, because again, you want to give it time. I will say that still today, here we are 3 years into this transition. We have people who are amazing Herbalife distributors that joined our business years ago in a different era, and they're not having the success that they want to be having. So one of the things that has worked is to continue, obviously, love and appreciate them, okay, but also share with them what's working. So over time, as you make the transition, you start to have validations, let's call it social proof, that it can work, okay, that certain people have made the transition and they're now having growth. So taking those stories and then sharing them with the people who are still not sure they want to make the transition, okay, that's been a big part of really how we've had more people transition over, okay.
Well, it's almost like the book of your journey can be a page in someone else's. So it's like staying open to contributing and helping people know they're not alone, and that what they're feeling is something you've been through before. I think that's been rewarding for us to be able to contribute back and help people through some of their challenging moments. So.
Yeah. I think another key lesson, especially looking backwards now, is that the process, number one, it's natural. Okay. I do believe that we all go through this in life. We go through it in business. We go through this. Okay. And so it's easier to recognize when we're looking backwards at where we were and the lessons that, you know, that occurred. Okay. But it can be a fun process. Okay. Now that we've gone through the process, obviously at the time, you know, there were moments where it wasn't fun. It was frustrating. Okay. But now, you know, I look at this and I go, wow, I honestly feel like I'm a brand new distributor again. I think about the excitement, you know, the pureness of like the future is bright, and I'm excited about what we're doing. And I understand, I have clarity on the model to the point that we finished, you know, we hit our first cut of Chairman's Club. And at that time decided that we're going to go into our own nutrition club in a brand new market and start fresh and look
Build
to
new.
build brand new
Mhm.
lines, right? And so it's a really, really enjoyable process. I'm going to say one more thing about that. I can honestly say that for me, the greatest joy through this whole process is really finding myself in a position where I feel like I can contribute to people again. I can tell you during that period of time where, things were down a little bit, you lose this, let's say sometimes for me, it was a belief in myself that I could make a difference for people, that I really knew how to teach them. And so now here we are, right, having gone through this, it's just the joy that I have of being able to contribute to people, guide people, help people grow. It's fun. I mean, this is a dream to have, right? 15 years later to be that excited about what's going on in the business. And, the last thing I'll say before I turn it to Jill is really, I will say that if we can find a way to continue to produce in Herbalife. In order for the model to really have success, we recommend that you continue to bring new people into the model. Okay, that's been a key piece for us, a
Mhm.
major part of the enjoyment of really having new people join the business that we could then guide, right? Rather than just say, hey, team, go do it. We were
Mhm.
actively involved in the transition and now even adding new people to the mix, people that had never known any of these previous eras in our business. And, the excitement that it's created in us, the vision for the future, all of a sudden it comes right back to, I now feel like, hey, I have a business that I can do for the rest of my life.
Excellent, Mark. And I think the last thing I'll say before we close it out is that if you ever do go through a period where it's difficult, just stay close to Herbalife. Like stay
Right.
close to your friends in Herbalife. Perhaps there's a way through your conversations with them. When someone else is in a great state and you're dealing with difficulty, they can raise you up. They can give you that spark back, that inspiration that you might be seeking for your own business as you're looking to reinvent and reframe it for yourself. And so I'm just so grateful to Herbalife. And, as Mark and I reflect on 15 years and all the Founders Circle and Chairman's Club members who have contributed to us, all the presidency members who have been our mentors, we certainly wouldn't be anywhere without all of them. And we certainly wouldn't be anywhere without our team. So thank you for having us be a part of Honors. And we hope this masterclass has been helpful for you and for your organization.